Welcome guest today for ET Auto special session with Martin Schwenk, Managing Director and CEO of Mercedes-Benz India, the largest player in the luxury market, very consistent and bringing the best of products from its global portfolio. We have the host of AMGs that just hit the market. Then we have GLS coming right away on the 17th. So the bouquet is entirely full for Mercedes-Benz. Today we take questions with regard to how the market would be for 2020, and as a segment leader, how Martin feels the luxury segment will do, especially upcoming festive season when sales are expected to be better, the market scenario as well as times of coronavirus. This corona epidemic era is bringing new challenges for the automotive industry, which I feel that the diligent industry will overcome in due course, and there's still much potential lying ahead. Thank you, Martin. Thank you so much for talking to ET Auto. I welcome to this session, special live session.
Thank you very much.
Can I just start with how it has been the first 6 months of the year? Many unpleasant as well as uncertain things, but still some surprises. You're the only one bringing in more cars and launches. Some companies, OEMs, had postponed and delayed their new products, but you were almost on bang. You were bringing new products. How has been the journey so far?
Thanks for having me. The journey has been very uncharted, I should say. We did never expect a year like this. We had early in the year really thought we go full steam into a very strong year in terms of how markets will develop. We had expected with all our product launches we have scheduled for this year around 10 launches. And our electrification, which comes with the EQ brand, which we had launched at the very early in the year. We should have a very, very strong time ahead for us. We also had already done away with all BS4, BS6 questions, so we were really, really well prepared. But unfortunately, I mean, we plan but things go a little bit differently. And since I would say middle of March, we are in a restructuring, resetting mode. Obviously, long-term view, I think that's true for everyone. We need to do it one step at a time and see how we move on. So the last couple of weeks have been difficult for everyone, for sure. But we also see now with slowly but surely businesses opening again, we can at least feel and see some movement, which gives us hope that we can go back to business, I should say.
Okay. You're the first one amongst the luxury players to restart your plant, your manufacturing operations, and in due course, your dealerships are also coming on stream. How has the business been in terms past couple of days, the fortnight since you restarted? What are the challenges you have seen? Some new issues that might have come with regard to, because many OEMs are facing with regard issues of labor and making production, supply chains, a host of issues. How have been the challenges so far, and especially what are the initiatives you are planning with your dealerships?
I mean, that's quite a few questions. Well, I think let me start like this. Already early March, we created a lot of scenarios to close down, and at that point in time, we already thought about, okay, now if we close, how do we restart? And I think that is something which took a lot of time then during the lockdown itself to prepare for a reasonable and good startup then. That enabled us, as I would think, it's almost a month now that we had opened our production facility again at the beginning with maybe 20-30% of staff on site. Today we are around 60% between shop floor and offices operational. So whenever the lockdown would ease to some extent, we did then consecutively also start our production, our office work. I think planning has a lot to do with that, preparing specifically also that every employee can stay safe. I mean, we have obviously introduced all relevant protocols in terms of cleaning, social distancing, temperature taking, and whatever you have. So I think we are very well prepared for that. And we did not only do that in-house, but we did also work with our dealers to make sure that they are prepared. That is already an activity which also goes back more than 4 weeks. That we had communicated to them. And so also step by step, dealerships could also come back to their operations. And right now, we're having around 95% of our workshops operational again, and it's on the sales outlets around 85%, which are operational. Obviously, still with some toothing pains of a ramp up. But I think slowly but surely we see that not only our people come back, also the business comes back. And if you ask me, we see how the last 2 weeks have been. I would say the last week was better than the 2 weeks before. So that gives you some trend, but obviously it's nowhere where it has to be and should be for some kind of normal operation. Whilst we're seeing orderings coming in, we see interaction with customers getting stronger and better. There is still, I think, a ramp up to be expected, which will take several weeks, even months, until we have some level of confident purchasing environment again.
Okay. Martin, if I can ask you, because Mercedes being a global player, they have operation across Europe, transcontinents, so many markets. As Germany is coming back, Italy is coming back, and so many markets, they are coming out of the Corona era and the pandemic, as well as they have been able to break the cycle. How your counterparts are dealing with these markets? What are the challenges they face, and what are the learnings they have? What are they sharing with you? How you can improvise Indian operations from those global learnings as a group?
I think we took big advantage out of that global setup, as you mentioned. And obviously, I think the biggest learnings came out of China, but then also South Korea and other markets who have dealt in a different way with the situation itself. So what we learned a lot is how to work with dealers, how to work with customers, what technology should we use, how do we prepare for ramp up. So we had regular platforms to exchange across the different markets to learn how to operate. And that goes from simple things. The colleagues in Malaysia, for example, made a handbook how to use the time for your employees doing training at home. So we took some of, online training. So we took some of that. South Korea did a handbook for dealers how to prepare vehicles so customers can get peace of mind when they take back their cars when they had been to service. So we took this content. Middle East was something. China, Europe. All different regions. We had some elements and regular exchange, and it was to us to check and take the right things which fit our market the best. So I think overall it worked quite well, but obviously we're not done. We're still in the middle of it.
Okay. Martin, you have been launching a couple of cars, but going by the trend of 2020, we have seen GLE coming to the market. Now you have lined up GLS, that's scheduled for 17. And you also had, meanwhile, the AMGs, the C63 and all. How do you see the trend for SUVs in a market? I'm asking relatively because in the month of May, Hyundai Creta was the largest selling model in India in terms of, it was an SUV. For Mercedes-Benz, the proportion of sales for SUVs is constantly growing. How do you see future of SUVs in a market today where customers might be looking at conserving money and cash?
I would say we have already for some time a very strong two legs to stand on. We always have had our sedans and limousines, and on the other hand, our SUVs. And this year surely is more focused on the SUVs with all the launches. We had GLC facelift launched only 6 months ago. We have GLC Coupe launched. We have GLE, as you mentioned. We bring GLS now. The EQC technically is also our new electric car, is also more in the segment of an SUV. So definitely we'll see quite some push in that segment. So that the foot we stand on here, the SUV will rather grow, but still we're pretty much in balance between sedan style and SUVs, and I think this is something for us which will remain to quite some extent. If you think our E-Class is the best selling car we have in that segment anyways. And we come later with the A limousine, which is also a very new product, which we complement then on the sedan style. So I cannot say it's all SUVs or we go direction SUV. This year we have a strong, renewal of product on the SUV, and the sedans will follow according to their timelines, and later in the year then specifically also with the A limousine. So it is both, I would say.
in these times, the Corona era, people are saying that electric vehicles might hasten the advent of electric vehicles into the market and globally, or it might delay in terms that people might stick to conventional technologies. ICE engines would be the preferred mode for customers. How do you see, will electric vehicles kind of bring advantage in these times?
I think it will depend on what policies are doing around electrification of vehicles. I mean, last year we saw a big change in the mood in the market, and also a push from mid of the year when the policies were also conducive for electric vehicles. And if you think the lower GST rates or road tax exemptions in several states or reductions, that is definitely a big a driver for further development of EV markets. And I would believe that in that sense, nothing has changed. Obviously, currently our main focus is to get back to business, and then obviously you go with your first mindset with everything you have in your portfolio. There is also I mean, what you have, you want to sell at the moment, but I think that is more temporarily effect. In the midterm or even in the short term, we come back to a view that electric vehicle will start growing over time. And again, as long as policies around that remain similar, then I'm very positive that we see future growth in the EV segment. The classical problems of infrastructure deployment and so forth, I think anyways, that's something which will take time to develop. And I would hope that there's not too much of a setback in investment into infrastructure, because there's maybe money now going into other activities or infrastructure measures. Overall, in my view, the customers feel they want more and more of the cars, and I think that will start again after the immediate worries are gone. And I would also think if the government stays on track in what they want to achieve, then the manufacturers will also deliver against that. And we are definitely ready to do that with our EQC.
Okay. Martin, one thing which many CEOs told me, that they had all the time in the world to plan. They had days, then they had weeks, then they had months to plan. So all the planning was super planned, then there were multiple plans to how to plan the plans. And now you have the time to execute these plans. So much of planning must have gone for the 2 months of lockdown, days after day. I just want to understand, for 2020, are you changing your strategy in these different times, uncertain times? And how Mercedes-Benz trying to revitalize or remotivate its people, dealer principals, and what alteration in your annual plans have been there?
The shock to the system is significant. So we obviously had time to plan. That's absolutely correct. But I can also say that we decided also not to change our principal track. So we will continue with our product launches. I mentioned earlier that we had planned 10 launches for this year, and we will continue to do that. You will appreciate that there is some delays, obviously, because of, if you like, 2.5 months not really in business, then it delays quite a bit. And also, in order to match what the market wants, what our supply chain can deliver, obviously makes sense to reprioritize here and there to make sure that we can deliver it with at least as possible of the disruption. So we stay on track when it comes to the product launches, and we also stay on track with our midterm expectations that we will see growth in India coming, but we will see a deferral of that because of the current situation. When you ask me now what we do to bring the business up to speed, then for sure it's 3 elements. We started a lot in terms of our online activation already during the lockdown. We have quite successfully launched a Merck from Home campaign a couple of weeks ago. With that, we could create a lot of traction during the lockdown itself, and we sold in 4 weeks between new car and used car around 100 cars, which I think is remarkable. It caused a lot of traction. So on the one hand, we definitely need to be in the online e-commerce space. And on top of that, we now setting a lot of emphasis also on customer offers itself. We have launched what we call a Wishbox 2.0, which is a set of financing options, which goes from no EMI for the first 3 months to low EMI for 6 months, up to a 10-year financing product with a guaranteed buyback type of setup. So that's the other thing. How can we bring the customers back and put their comfort that they can afford the vehicles we are selling? And then the third biggest thing is obviously our products. We launch a lot of products. You mentioned already GLC Coupe just before the lockdown. GLE is a car which is still completely in ramp up and only recently launched. Now we come with GLS, and that continues. So with the focus on the new products, not even to mention the AMGs you mentioned when you introduced, I think there is a lot of attraction we can get out of that and entice customer again to see what we are doing. So between online customer offerings and then good new products to bring some momentum into the business, we have some expectation that should help to dig us all out a little bit out of the hole we are all sitting in at the moment. Yeah, that's
Martin. In these times, the dealer community, especially, which are great brand ambassadors for any company, any OEM, and they have been having tough time dealing with the situation because of lockdown. The facilities were stopped. They had huge inventory issues. The cost has gone up. The capex was totally changed, and the manpower was not remained unutilized for 2 months. There were issues with regard to they were demanding enhanced margins and improvement in operations so that they remain feasible for 2020. Because last year we had seen almost 300 outlets getting shut. There were different issues, financial issues, and multiple issues with regard to dealers not being able to manage the business really well. And the rental costs have been very high, especially in metros. In the sum total, question I want to ask you is, any special incentives? How are you helping the dealers to cope with this special situation and remain with you in terms of giving better results for the remaining part of 2020?
In the early stages of the crisis, and still today, I think the biggest issue was cash and liquidity of the dealerships. So we made sure that any open dues we had towards the dealers, we completely expedited the process and paid with much faster and much more lean procedures, brought a lot of liquidity and cash to the dealers, which helped in the first phase or the first couple of weeks to stay afloat. Obviously, we're also using our captive financing, Daimler Financial Services, to review with dealer by dealer what can be done, how can we extend their lines, and how can we make sure that things are still afloat. That's mostly on the cash side. But then obviously we also were cognizant of the fact that middle of March, that is a high season when you think of the tax year. And then there was all of a sudden a disruption, meaning dealers sit on elevated inventories. So we supported them with inventory support to some extent through that phase. At the end, we together with the dealers, I mean, we cannot pay them out of the crisis. Yeah, at the end, it is about having a joint approach, which is between what we do with financial support and what we do then with bringing the business back. Because at the end, we have to sell ourselves out of the crisis. Yeah, it's the only way to do it. We cannot infuse money, and it doesn't. That won't make business again. So, having said that, we try to alleviate the immediate problems. We work with the dealers on top of that with their fixed cost structures. Because really, yes, you're right. We didn't have dealers failing, and we don't want to have that. I mean, it's not good for the dealers, it's not good for the customers, and not good for the brand. So it is a dealer by dealer view what needs to happen. How can we support them? And on the other hand, how can we make them viable? We have also shown some flexibility in fixed cost elements, which is also necessary, specifically when it's not customer facing, to make sure that there can be some savings implemented. And we had very frank discussions with every dealer on these legs. Still, we're in the middle of the whole situation, and it's still a developing situation. That's why I'm saying the biggest help now, I think, needs to be that we start bringing products, that we start doing marketing as well, and that we entice customers to come back to the showrooms and to purchase cars, because at the end, it's only that which makes a viable business, having happy customers who come and purchase a car.
Martin, in this crisis, the digital moves came as a big respite to the industry. Many companies have started online sales, and digital initiatives of Mercedes also received well. You got very good number of leads from customers. Can you just enumerate on digital initiatives, as well as how do you see the future of brick and mortar stores? The debate has started with regard to digital and brick and mortar stores, the big stores that require huge investment. But automotive is a very different field. It's not like white goods. A whole lot of safety is involved. Customers have a preference in terms of features, specs, colors, aesthetics, so many other issues where touch and feel is very important, critical for the product as well as the customer's preference. How do you see going ahead with the digital versus the brick and mortar debate and your initiatives?
Well, I would say already more than a year ago, we decided we should have a strong online presence and e-commerce sales platform, and we actually launched that then in the fourth quarter of 2019, still in a very early stage. And then only in February we started really marketing it. We showed it for used cars only, for Mercedes-Benz pre-owned vehicles. We also had it in the Auto Expo coming across, and showed now you can buy a used Mercedes from your home, and we designed the process around that. Now, when we always had planned to add new cars to that, but the whole crisis itself was not only about planning, it was also rapid delivering. We just crunched our plans to some extent and relooked the online sales journey again to make it really something that works under this condition, with the customer can really have from home not only selecting a car or booking it, but also get a consultation in a completely different way. And I would want to mention two elements. The one is what we call Mercedes-Benz Live Consultation Studio. So you can schedule for a discussion with one of our product experts here in Pune, and you will have a live video streaming then when you have scheduled that via our website, live video streaming, and share and ask questions and get it answered on the vehicle you're interested in. So that will be done by one of our product experts, or is currently already done. So you can actually look that up. On the other hand, we added in what we call an online sales concierge. Every dealership has people who man between 10 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night, 10 in the morning and 10 at night, are available for customers for technical discussion, commercial discussions, additional information. So that it is not just a pure online sales journey, it is complemented with a direct interaction mode as well in these elements that I just was mentioning. And at the future, I think we have to understand, when you buy a car, almost every customer will at some point in time will be online, will be either on e-commerce or some website, we know that. But they will also be offline, brick and mortar to some extent. And even if it's taking over the car, but in between there is everything possible. Yeah, some people might be very digital and remain there and have then video streaming communication. They might ask for a test drive, then the test drive vehicle will get brought to their home and they can do it from home. So everything like this is possible, and then you will have customers who really want to go into the showroom. They want to see, touch, feel, and a more personal touch. So I think we will see both developing, but I don't see that it's a competition between the two streams. I believe it's complementing each other. And also when you think, for example, our online platform, it is basically every dealer has their own virtual showroom, I should say. So when I speak, for example, about these online sales concierge, he operates basically in the same way in the online space as he would do it in the brick and mortar store, and he offers the same inventory as he would do in the brick and mortar store. So I think at the end it's about enhancing the experience and being where the customer is, and not competing one against the other, and for sure not OEM competing against dealers. That's a question I also get from time to time. That's not the intent at all. It is a complementing, every dealer operates the brick and mortar, and it's complemented by the online sales channel. However, as much as we talk about online, it will still a way to get that to a higher penetration. So we had set us an assumption of by 2025 it should be around 25% of online transaction, and I would still maintain that number. I have not changed that view just because of the crisis, and we could somehow accelerate. But that tells us at the same time 80%, 90%, and will still remain in the next few years a physical-based transaction. And that, I think, is also necessary to put it into relation.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you for your response. It's been a very intriguing conversation. That brings me to my last question. You have a fairly large market share in the luxury segment. I always love to ask when you will become the Economic Times of luxury market, in terms that you will be more than 50% and all others put together would be less than you. How do you see this happening? Because you have been gaining market share, you have been gaining sales. Will 2020 you see this happening, or it has been slightly pushed in the Corona times?
This is not a target by itself. I mean, that's not a target. What we want is a sustainable growth, and ideally the market grows much more than our market share grows, because then we all benefit. And there is no intent to dominate any kind of market, and that's also not achievable. I mean, it all depends on the overall development, because what we also don't want, our products are very good products and they have their price. There's one way you can easily change market share, and that's something which at the end has a lot of disadvantages to the dealers, to the OEMs and the customers, and that's discounting your vehicles and making them available at a lower price point. That creates a lot of problem then afterwards with residual values. So customers who bought earlier are not happy about that. So at the end, we have to be cognizant of the fact that it needs to be a system which is stable and is beneficial to customers, to dealers, to manufacturers. And with that, we're aiming at customer satisfaction and not at market share.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you so much for talking to ET Auto. It was a very intriguing conversation and nice interaction with you after a long due. I wish you all the best for the GLS launch on 17th of June and for the entire year. I wish you all the best and great times ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. You be safe. Thank you so much.